Lumos Maxima. Lumos Maxima!
Hey guys and gals, I'm Harry from The Young Cynics, and I'm here to do my official ranking of the best and worst Harry Potter films. If you can all like, share and subscribe, that would do us a massive favour here at The Young Cynics. Now personally, my ranking of the Harry Potter films has waxed and waned since seeing the release of the series finale in 2011, based on many different factors. Some were always too boring, too long, or didn't have enough peeves for my liking, but in taking a critical look back, I think I've finally been able to rank them in my official order. Now keep in mind, I'll only be ranking the 8 Harry Potter films, so sorry to all those Fantastic Beasts and Where Are the Beasts, Are There Any Beasts fans, but they'd be at the bottom 2 of this list. I'm also judging based off the films, not the books, which would be a completely different list, which thankfully excludes the fan service train derailment of The Cursed Child. Anyways, here goes my ranking of the Harry Potter films. Now to preface, I didn't dislike any of these films. I love them all and there are components to each and every one that I adore, but this film suffered from the split release wave of the 2010s, and as is usually the case, we got one slow, dry and uneventful chunk of the story so that the other could succeed and flourish with the rest. This film is the first to fully take us away from the magic of Hogwarts, which in part is its downfall. Hogwarts has always been this thriving bubble of adventure and chaos, while being incredibly homely to our trio, but this film casts them deep into the wild, as they pursue Horcruxes and clarity on what their mission truly is. Most of the films have a deep-seated mystery going on, but unfortunately this film's mystery is what Harry, Ron and Hermione are actually meant to be doing. They are lost, unsure, and no longer have the safety net of the wizarding world around them. This does lead to a lot of character-based narrative. We get to focus on our characters and there's a huge emphasis on what they mean to one another and the sense of codependence and camaraderie they share, which leads to one of my favourite moments. This small original scene goes towards the running theme that is especially prevalent in this film. Happiness can be found in even the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light. These two share a singular moment where the world's dependence on their success is put on pause, and these two humans just have a silly, solemn moment to remind one another that there's still good out there. These two also share a solemn moment returning to Godric's Hollow, reconciling to the beginning of the series and giving Harry a chance to finally officially mourn his parents, and gives a sense of importance to Harry's mission, showing how much has transcended for him to be where he is, through visiting his past life while discovering more about Dumbledore, the Peverell brothers, and where he was first raised. By the end of the penultimate film and the trio's capture, the pacing improves vastly. The clock is ticking and you can tell that the characters are in the home stretch, and this sense of momentum leads steadily into the events of the final film. The 5th film follows on directly from the return of Voldemort, and Harry witnessing the death of Cedric Diggory, and there's this feeling that Hogwarts isn't quite as safe as it's always been. The danger has always been life-threatening, but it's never managed to quite take a student's life yet. The whole wizarding world is against Harry and Dumbledore, but Dumbledore is actively avoiding Harry, making this year at Hogwarts feel more disconnected than ever before. This film has a dire lack of friendly teachers. Hagrid is missing for a lot of this film and has little to do when he returns, Dumbledore is avoiding Harry, and Snape and Umbridge take the primary focus. Imelda Staunton is phenomenal in the role of Umbridge. She portrays this cruel, vile and condescending ministry representative as the dark arts professor, and wields her power to truly disturb the natural state of Hogwarts. But unfortunately she's a little too good at being horrible, and is prominent in most plots throughout the film, making her feel overbearing as intended, and taking away from the weight of Voldemort's return. Her acts lead to the development of Dumbledore's army, one of the best aspects of this film, which show all of our side characters as they catch up to Harry's level of competence in magic. This especially highlights Neville's pivot from the butt of all jokes to being an extremely competent wizard, despite not having his wand's ownership, a major feat by any wizard, and finally transcending his student character into one of the film's best. Another brilliant aspect of the film is Umbridge's greatest unexpected foils, the only wizards brave enough to face her and live to tell the tale, Fred and George Weasley, who single-handedly save the school from completely submerging into misery and ensuring that Umbridge never quite has the complete dominance she seeks. These pranks and magical jokes are the light that this film needs, and keeps the film filled with hope and magic of Hogwarts, as it seems to fade into obscurity. Umbridge's exit from the film and comeuppance paints Harry with the same brush as her, and seems like a petty, dire and quick manner to wrap up this plot, however. The film shows very little progression in the series. Voldemort's return for the whole film serves the purpose of manipulating Harry in bursts, to lead to the final confrontation in the Department of Mysteries, but neither party progresses any further than they were at the start of the film. The third act of all Harry Potter films is usually memorable, and the exciting aspect. However, the Department of Mystery seems visually uninteresting as teenagers, Death Eaters, and the Order duel, until Sirius's unexpected and pointless demise, where the film adapts away from the book and has him murdered, but doesn't give the audience any time to mourn. Harry has a moment of sadness that turns into anger, and the story is back on the move. This leads into the best duel of the series without a doubt. We finally transcend for a moment away from the red and green streams of good and evil, and we see phenomenal magic. Each move is a direct creative reaction to the opponent's spells, and we see the best interpretation of magic to date, leading to no victory, before the Minister arrives and recognises Voldemort's return. This film is a long, drawn-out journey to the Ministry's denial, until its abrupt acceptance of the new terms of the Wizarding World, and whilst bringing the likes of Neville, Luna and Ginny successfully into the fold as equally talented wizards to back up our trio, shows very little progression and contribution to the overall plot. The second film of the series brings Harry back into the Wizarding World, after a full year of immersion into the whimsical Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Whilst Harry was heralded to Hogwarts in the prior film by Hagrid, this time he is prevented from returning by Dobby, a well-meaning house elf, who is one of two of this film's demonstrations on a discrimination against class. Once Harry eventually arrives after a rogue Ford Anglia joyride to Hogwarts, the mystery of the Chamber of Secrets and the Parseltongue voices Harry hears are quickly commenced. The pacing of the first and final acts is strong, however the centre of this film slows down and loses its momentum. As Harry, Ron and Hermione take classes, play Quidditch and hang out with Hagrid, the underlying threat of the basilisk grows as students become petrified. The interactions of a young Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint and Emma Watson are imperfect performances which fit the childish nature of this film, however has dated this film and highlights the issue of child actors. Alternatively, all of the teaching cast are naturally outstanding. One of the series' most flawless aspects is its adult cast. McGonagall, Hagrid, Gilderoy, Sprout, Pomfrey and Richard Harris as Dumbledore are all perfect performances of their roles, and build up the whimsy of Hogwarts. However, the child-led nature of this film can show its flaws in moments. This film introduces our second flawed teacher into the cursed role of Defence Against the Dark Arts, Gilderoy Lockhart, who is a perfectly serviceable, goofy teacher obstacle. Similarly, this film introduces Draco as a prominent student foil to Harry, and the trio as he becomes definitively their antagonists. And his blood-purist heritage brings him into the fold of Salazar Slytherin's hidden chamber and the mysterious Tom Riddle and his diary as they become a threat. The film's sidelining of Hermione is to its detriment in the centre of the film, as Harry and Ron are essentially helpless unless they stumble onto the next clue until they reach the final conclusion. The Chamber of Secrets, as aforementioned, has a final act which stands out from this film, as the third act often does. The set piece and practical effects are astonishing and hold up brilliantly as opposed to the dated CGI of the early films, bringing the basilisk to life as Harry must foil Tom Riddle's second attempt to return, and his defeat of both are monumental for Hogwarts, and the progression of the narrative of the series with Harry's defeating of the first Horcrux. The instigating film, Philosopher's Stone, is a perfect introduction to a magical world, and every child, as well as many adults, dream come true. The coming-of-age story of an ordinary boy who is whisked away to a world where he is a legendary wizard and the chosen one is a staple of many of the biggest fantasy series out there, but no story captures the immersion of a magical world quite as well as this first installment. Harry's portrayal as a mistreated orphan, looked after by his cruel aunt and uncle and his pompous cousin, humanises this chosen one, who in spite of such, displays an incredible amount of optimism considering his upbringing. The introduction of Hagrid, who leads Harry through the brick wall and into Diagon Alley, to platform 9 3/4, and eventually to Hogwarts, is awe-inspiring, and demonstrates a true sense of magic as Harry's integrated with the audience to this newfound world. Whilst this movie focuses on the introduction to the Wizarding World, there is the mystery of Fluffy and what he is guarding, and who he is guarding it from. The film introduces one of the greatest red herrings of all time, in Severus Snape, who, whilst is shown to be well-intentioned by the end, is definitively perceived as an antagonist until the eventual bait and switch with Professor Quirrell, who unfortunately, aside from the shock factor, does not hold up favourably against the talents of Alan Rickman. The film's biggest downfall from a modern perspective is that the CGI and the performances of children actors. Fluffy, Quidditch and Voldemort's face on the back of the head of Quirrell all stand out as issues by modern standards of CGI, which, whilst not being this film's fault, dated immensely. Similarly, the performances by the main three are good for children, but stand out in moments as cringeworthy and can take you out of the film, as do the plot conveniences that plague the film itself, from Hagrid's ability to blurt exposition to the trio stumbling across anything that the plot requires. In spite of such, This introduction stands the test of time in the eternal story of a hero's introduction to a world of magic, witchcraft, and wizardry. And Hogwarts, Diagon Alley, and all the introduced aspects of this world are made eternal by a film that is far better than it should have been. Now, while this channel has already addressed why Goblet of Fire is the best Harry Potter film, it seems opinions are, wait for it, subjective. So...
I'm keeping that in.
So alternatively, Goblet of Fire makes number 4 on my list, instead of the top spot. Goblet of Fire further pivots away from the child-centric nature of the first 3 films, and as the protagonists get older and more mature, so do the films, leading to Goblet of Fire being the most mature and darkest film yet. From the get-go, the new tone is set. Death Eaters are on the march, and evil forces are mounting in this world. The Wizarding World is against Harry. Hogwarts' more favourable candidate is somehow a Hufflepuff, the charismatic Robert Pattinson, as Cedric Diggory. This is one of the film's best aspects. For once, the teachers, for a most part, are unable to intervene and save the day. Dumbledore can't stop Harry from being a Triwizard champion. And yeah, I'd be remiss to not mention that scene. Insert the scene here.
Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
No, sir.
You asked one of the oldest students to do it for you?
No, sir.
You're absolutely sure?
Yes, sir.
It's incredibly out of character and a bad diversion from the books.
I don't get why you guys get so pissed off about that.
You guys? What do you mean, you guys?
Harry Potter fans.
I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I'm the Harry Potter fan. Oh shit, he's gonna put this in. But aside from Moody and Hagrid, who inform and advise Harry, he's only got his friends to help him get through these tasks. The Triwizard Tournament sets this film to be one of the most eventful. Each of the tasks have their own spectacle, and a sense of urgency, and all look phenomenal. Well, for the most part. When I say phenomenal, cut in Crumb's shark head, and then I say, well, for the most part. It's comedy gold. And the mystery of the dark underlying plot of Voldemort's return fill out the rest of the film, making it enthralling throughout the whole narrative. The main negatives of this film, I'd say, aside from those haircuts...
My haircut, your haircut, our long haircuts.
Oh, cut in photos of us.
Yeah.
and then... The main negatives of this film, I'd say, aside from all those haircuts, is the detrimental role of Ron. Whilst it's for a small portion, he really brings down the film as he mopes around avoiding Harry. The sense of teenage angst, while appropriate at this age, really puts a damper on the otherwise flawless pacing. Whilst the spectacle of this film is always on the move, this leaves little room for character development and those quiet personal moments that make some of the most meaningful of the franchise. This film has clearly chosen to steer away from the likes of such as an active choice, but in the end doesn't improve upon the lovable characters it involves. This film as well emphasises so heavily on the Triwizard Tournament that the monumental return of Voldemort at the end and the graveyard confrontation feels like one of the least interesting moments of the film, despite being the most impactful in terms of consequences afterwards and in killing a student, and bringing back you-know-who. This in contrast to a desperate, dangerous chase through a claustrophobic maze or escaping a pursuing dragon, in my opinion, diminishes the impact of the graveyard interaction, which ends in the first of many battles of contrasting, underwhelming beams of light. The finale in Harry Potter series is the only film to beat Goblet of Fire in regards to the exciting content it crams in. It manages to balance set pieces and emotional beats really well and is a fitting send-off to the franchise. The film initiates on a somber note. Dobby has died for Harry, another victim of the Wizarding War and a powerful ally who was happy to die amongst friends. The slow opening establishes perfectly what works in these films. The friendship, loyalty and camaraderie to a fault of the set of characters. Dobby believed in the friendship Harry gave him, and was willing to put his life on the line for a fighting chance for his friends. With this to fuel them, they embark on the final stages of the franchise. This film has astonishing use of CGI, with a flawless dragon escape from Gringotts to the Battle of Hogwarts, and everything in this film looks the part in an effortless manner. From the second the characters enter Hogwarts, there's a familiarity. The community of Hogwarts and the Order stand united with Harry, before Hogwarts prepares for its oncoming war. The slew of characters collected through this series is awe-inspiring as Flitwick, Slughorn, McGonagall and Molly cast enchantments around the school, with a sense of desperation and the magic of Hogwarts shining through one last time. The hero of this film, without a doubt, is Neville, giving him finally the role he deserves, and one of the best speeches of the films, and a pivotal role in the defeat of Voldemort, as a worthy Gryffindor. The film's biggest flaw is the way it addresses death. While Snape's demise is tragic and one of the most heartfelt revelations of the series, and a testament to Rickman's performance, the Battle of Hogwarts claims Fred Weasley, Nymphadora Tonks, Lavender Brown and Remus Lupin on screen and rarely acknowledges or respects their contributions to the cause. This is without doubt a cause of the almost overstuffed nature of the film, but is one of the few downfalls of it. The final battle between Harry and Voldemort is lackluster, and gives Voldemort far too grand a death than he deserves or is given in the books. And the epilogue, while closing the loop of this story, seems unnecessary and forcefully introduces another far less interesting potential chapter in this world. By far the most controversial selection on this list will be my placement of Half-Blood Prince. This film used to be my least favourite, least viewed, and most boring Harry Potter film. However, in recent viewings has become one of my most beloved. This film is the true calm before the storm and slows down to detail all the important exposition in an earned and prolonged sense. It acts as a character study and serves to inform the audience about the roles of each character, especially Tom Riddle, and who he was and became following his time at Hogwarts. Some of my biggest issues with Harry Potter films is the lack of emotion successfully portrayed and the disregard of death on a large scale. This is all addressed in Half-Blood Prince. The film feels dire and draining to all its characters. From the get-go, Dumbledore is portrayed as ill and damaged, and needs Harry to extract a vital piece of information. He tells Harry he needs to be collected and serve his own motives, to which Harry follows without question, evident of their relationship. This is without a doubt Dumbledore's best film. Throughout it, Michael Gambon portrays a sense of calmness as he comes to terms with what he must do for this war. Another highlighted character is Snape. His bitterness is portrayed in this film differently, as Rickman seems emotionless and distant. He, as many characters, is coming to terms with his role. His mentor and friend has asked too much of him, but he must follow through. With our trio as well, the romance between Ron and Hermione is idle. Neither chooses to address or act upon what is evidently there, until Ron's glory earns the attention of Lavender Brown, which leads to one of the most emotive scenes between Radcliffe and Watson. It's a simple concept amongst the grandeur of the world, but it's two friends supporting one another. The heart of this scene cements our leads as true, real individuals who care deeply for one another and displays the friendship as a lifelong bond. The ending of the Astronomy Tower is tragic, but it hits every single emotional beat as well. Performances execute their task perfectly. There is a sense of understanding and begging between Snape and Dumbledore, an evidently torn nature of Draco, and the unrelenting wickedness of Bellatrix and the Death Eaters that watch on as Snape kills Dumbledore. Through all the performances and nuances of this film, it becomes one of the best crafted, and whilst there is very little adventure and set pieces throughout this film, it manages to design an excellent depiction of a cast of characters, all individually demonstrating inner demons and struggles, and an inability to address what is required of them. Alfonso Cuarón's vision of the Harry Potter world is by far the most distinctive and creative. By the time Prisoner of Azkaban has begun, the merge between children and teenagers has begun, and the two types of Harry Potter film are blended without fault in Prisoner of Azkaban. Later films seek a grittier, moodier tone, whilst earlier films are a magical adventure of discovery and friendship. However, this finds itself right in the middle. This film is one of the most personal, in that the titular antagonist is perceived by Harry to be the reason his parents are dead, his godfather who betrayed his best friend and is hunting him down next. It's a dark premise that, in spite of such, manages to have the awe and magical sense of discovery throughout its cinematic moments, like Harry flying Buckbeak, are intertwined with the charismatic Lupin and Black, whilst one of the best cinematic executions of time travel loops perfectly through both executions of the third act. This film introduces incredible concepts from the aforementioned time travel to werewolves and animagi and the Marauders map, without ever seeming overly convoluted, and serves its mysteries well, laying out implications of the real nature and history of characters, before revealing them in its finale. The transitioning Hogwarts is focusing on prophecies and defense against the dark arts, away from potions, transfiguration, and charms, as Harry progresses from a beginner wizard into a talented, maturing one who can perform Patronuses and disarm teachers without hesitation. He's becoming a more confident wizard and is becoming more mature and adult, without fully leaving his childish sense of optimism. Overall, this film is the perfect blend of the best aspects of Harry Potter, and in turn, my top-ranked Harry Potter film. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed my ranking. Feel free to leave your own rankings and opinions and suggestions in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and check out other videos from our channel. Until next time, I've been Harry from the Young Cynics, and insert catchphrase here.